I know this might be more of an uncharted territory for most video game enthusiasts, but I'm one of those few who got really excited following the announcement of Mega Man Dual Override. This is being marketed as a brand new entry in the classic Mega Man branch, and those who have grown up on Capcom hits will be happy to know that Capcom is investing in a new 2D entry after all these years. And it's a big sign that the brand has new plans coming up. But ever since the announcement of Mega Man Dual Override has been made, I've been wondering about the possibility of a new Mega Man X game. Well, I'm sorry to disappoint you here, but there's been no such official confirmation. But the story around this is more interesting than a simple yes or no. As of now, all that is confirmed is Mega Man Dual Override is set for a 2027 release. The first look at the game shows classic side-scrolling Mega Man gameplay with running, shooting, sliding, and fighting colorful robot bosses, rendered in a modern cel-shaded art style. However, it is also quite evident that the game is positioned as the continuation of the classic Mega Man feel and not an X-style entry. From what has been revealed so far, the game is coming to a wide spread of platforms, from PS5, Xbox Series X and S, Nintendo's next-gen Switch 2, plus the PS4, Xbox One, and PC. And this tells me that Capcom wants this to be a big and accessible comeback for the IP, and not a small experimental spin-off. Also, I find it quite comforting that Capcom is confident enough to show a gameplay slice years ahead of the release, because it might also be an indication that they have bigger plans with Mega Man. The key takeaway for those who are wishing for a new Mega Man X is that the brand is being moved forward, and the new game means that the series is no longer in a limbo. It may not directly impact the X timeline, but it can always be a possibility. What has Capcom actually said about Mega Man and X? Next, I would like to talk about what Capcom is saying on the record, because this is where hope for a new X game comes from. In multiple shareholder Q&A sessions, Capcom has described Mega Man as one of our most important IPs and said that they are continuously considering ways to develop it further, while also adding the classic corporate line that they have no additional information to share yet. That's vague, but it's been consistent messaging across more than 1 year of these Q&As. Capcom has also said that making new Mega Man games requires developing a solid concept and gameplay idea, and that they're actively considering how to approach new entries in the series. That comment came around the same general period when they were revisiting Mega Man via collections like the Battle Network Legacy Collection and Mega Man X collections, which performed well enough to hit 7-figure sales. What's interesting is that the company's tone is never "we're done with Mega Man X" or "that storyline is complete." Instead, they bundle Mega Man as a whole franchise and talk about future development in a broad way, which keeps X in play without promising anything specific. So when you combine those comments with the announcement of Dual Override, it feels like Capcom is testing how strong modern Mega Man demand really is before pulling the trigger on more deeper sub-series. The history of Mega Man X9 and why it matters. To really understand where things stand, you have to look at the weird history of Mega Man X9 as a concept. There actually was a period when X9 was more than just fan speculation. A detailed retrospective from Rockman Corner walks through how Capcom USA once pitched an X9 for PlayStation 2, using Mega Man X8's sales, numbers, and asset as a foundation for a more lower-budget follow-up. The project reportedly had a producer and an artist, and it entered a very early pre-production phase where the idea was to reuse X8 assets to get something out quickly. But before that could turn into a full game, Capcom Japan made a call: drop X9 and instead focus on Mega Man Maverick Hunter X, a reboot-style remake of the original Mega Man X meant to reintroduce the brand. Internally, Maverick Hunter X was described as a safer bet to keep the X brand alive in a market where sales had been sliding compared to the SNES glory days. The behind-the-scenes story also includes fan outreach. Capcom USA reportedly set up channels to gather feedback about both the potential X9 and a sequel to Command Mission, but that momentum vanished once the remake path was chosen. The key point here is that X9 wasn't some impossible dream. It got close enough to have staff and a direction before being cut from the table. That history matters today because it shows that an X9-style sequel is not off the table conceptually. Capcom has already explored it once, and their decisions came down to timing, sales trends, and brand strategy, not hatred for the X timeline itself. Fan hype, rumors, and the X9 dream. From a fan point of view, the X side of Mega Man has basically become the game everyone keeps wishing existed. Recent community discussions still circle around the idea of X9, including concerns like whether a new entry would rewrite the Lumine and Axel storyline or retcon late series events to fit a new direction. That shows people are thinking hard about continuity and narrative payoff. Videos and think pieces talking about the Mega Man game fans really want often focus specifically on X9, pitching it as a bridge between the X series and later events like the Elf Wars from the Zero timeline. These discussions speculate about using X9 to flesh out gaps in the lore, give proper closure to Axel, and see the transition into darker, more war-torn eras. On the more speculative side, there are also social posts joking that there will never ever be a Mega Man X9, often paired with marketing lines pushing dual override instead. The tone in the fan community ranges from hopeful to cynical, but the fact that people are still arguing about X9 in 2025 tells me the desire for a new X game hasn't really cooled off. There are also long-running fan projects like Mega Man X Corrupted, which have kept that specific flavor of side-scrolling action alive for years in the absence of an official sequel. Threads about Corrupted in 2025 show people still following its glacial development and even worrying it might get abandoned if Capcom suddenly announced a real X game. That's a wild situation. A fan project that's been going for over a decade, possibly threatened by the very thing everyone wants, an official X successor. Capcom's strategy: why X might be waiting its turn. From a business and creative perspective, there are some clear reasons why an X game might not be first in line, even if Capcom loves the IP. First, Capcom has leaned heavily on legacy collections to keep Mega Man alive. The Classic Collections, X Legacy Collections, and the Battle Network Legacy Collection have provided relatively low-risk ways to monetize nostalgia and test demand. When the Battle Network compilation crossed 1 million units, that was a strong sign that these older sub-series still sells, and it's likely to be fed into the willingness to greenlight something like Dual Override. Second, the gap between new mainline Mega Man releases has been long. There has been an 8-year pause between Mega Man 10 in 2010 and Mega Man 11 in 2018, and it's been several years since then with no brand new entry until this 2027 game. That pattern shows Capcom being extremely cautious, almost treating Mega Man as a when the concept is right we move kind of IP rather than an annual franchise. And third, the X series specifically had a shaky sales and reception trajectory, with later games not matching the early popularity of X1 to X4. When the brand started underperforming in Japan, Capcom pivoted to a remake rather than pushing straight ahead with X9, which suggests that any new X game would need a clear pitch that justifies the investment. So from Capcom's point of view, leading with a classic-style Mega Man game like Dual Override in 2027 makes sense. So if I have to sum things up for you here, I have no false promises for you to assure you about an upcoming Mega Man X game. However, there are too many positives that cannot be discounted. The biggest positive for me is the announcement of Dual Override, and the updated approach to this game can be used for a modern X sequel. I think the fans will agree that if Capcom actually puts some of the design ideas that we have seen in the glimpses of Dual Override into Mega Man X, nobody will be complaining. As of now, all you can do is stay updated and do not go by random rumors on Reddit thread. Follow the official social channels of Capcom for any announcements, and of course, the major events like the Game Awards always reveals new venture. If a new Mega Man X game were to ever surface, it would happen through such high-profile and well-sourced channels, and not through some isolated rumor post. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts about Dual Override, and also share your take on the possibility of a new Mega Man X game in the distant future.